really trust us.
Marry my daughter.
Is she a prostitute?
The eyes of a dying giraffe can change a man.
We try make blood much big.
Happy birthday, Monkey Spanker.
No, really trust us.
Hope you enjoyed the show.
Welcome to No Really Trust Us, the B-movie podcast for people who really like B-movies. With me, as always, is Matt the Professor McNevin and Ken the Corn Star Cornwell, here to talk about...
Ken, not too keen on that one.
We'll have to workshop that one, I think.
Producer's note, I did not approve this nickname before.
Ken gave a whole Marge Simpson there. Just,
Well, hey, this is not a podcast about nicknames, so you're out of luck. It's a podcast about B-movies, and we're actually talking about one tonight that's a little more mainstream than our usual fare. It's Kaboom by Gregg Araki, who, if you are familiar with indie film and specifically queer cinema, you've probably heard his name before. But before we get into it, let's introduce ourselves. I am a writer, editor, and sometimes director, and I really love watching B-movies to see the occasional fresh new idea that bubbles up. Professor, why do you like B-movies?
I like them because they don't have to be good to be fun. You can always, I can always pull something, even in a movie that's terrible. There's always at least something in there that I'm like, oh, that's cool, or that's interesting. And we try to do here is just find the movies that have more of those moments than any other, I think. And I'm Matt, or also the professor, because I am an adjunct professor at American University. I'm also a commercial video filmmaker and also part-time narrative filmmaker when Dedo and I get our heads together. And over to you, Ken.
That's Cornstar, actually.
That's right. Ken Cornstar, I'm sorry.
Cornstar.
Hey, now you're a corn star.
Oh, no, it gets worse.
Don't get us copyright stricken, Dedo.
Yeah, so I am Ken Cornstar. I am I'm a video producer and writer, and have been sometimes called a walking IMDb. Yeah, I love B movies too. I think what I love about B movies, I think is similar to what you were saying, Professor, is that they're so fun. Like, even when they're bad, they're fun. And as much as I like A movies, sometimes they're not fun. And so that's, I think you can love B movies because they're good, because they have good elements, and you can love them because they're bad. Although our focus is really the B movies that are good.
Indeed. I think one of the reasons why this one is good is because, according to IMDb, it's a comedy, mystery, romance, sci-fi, and thriller.
Any other genres they want to throw in there?
And they don't have the queer tag, which is strange because it did win it was the first movie to ever win the Queer Palm, which is award for films at Cannes that contribute to lesbian, gay, bisexual, or transgender issues. And I actually find that funny because, like, I'm not sure exactly like what issues this movie addresses, other than, like, if you meet a guy at a nude beach, you might find out he's married after but it does have a pretty good line at the beginning. The main character, Smith, describes himself not as bisexual, not as gay, but as sexually undeclared, which is
it's a great line.
Great way to set up the overall, like, themes of ambivalence and listlessness. I don't want to say nihilism because I don't think that's accurate, but, like, it's a movie that takes place in a college, and these kids are college kids, and they're figuring their lives out.
Yeah, well, nihilism and nihilism, if you want to say it. Is it nihilism or nihilism?
I have no idea.
But that is a kind of pet theme of Gregg Araki's. You've seen it. It comes up over and over again in all of his films. This Kaboom perhaps being the most extreme articulation of that, I think. The most literal, if we'll say. Yeah. In the same way that, like, Melancholia is, like, the most literal version of Lars von Trier's, pet
Absolutely.
themes of depression and everything sucks.
Like you were saying, it's not theme heavy, but I think for a movie set, the movie made in 2010, I mean, it's hard to think about it now, since so much time has passed, but like I felt that like it's transgressive in a way that it's so accepted that the characters are that there's gay characters, there's sexually undeclared characters, and I think I would say like that's sort of where it is, doing something different, at least for the time. Like I feel like that wasn't a thing you saw that much in 2010.
Yeah. And how 2010 is it, Ken? Smith gets the girl's number on his BlackBerry. That's how 2010 the movie is.
Somebody gets an email off a Facebook page, which
Right.
which is both accurate and not accurate. I feel like that was maybe a line from like back in the MySpace days that they just like updated without tweaking.
Right.
That line apparently offended more than one small print journalist because I saw that.
Oh.
I saw that brought up in quite a few of these little reviews.
That's very strange.
But yeah, so we should talk about the actual plot here. So Smith is our main character. He is a freshman, I believe, and he's trying to figure out both his sex life and the rest of his life. He's got a BFF named Stella, who seems to have things slightly more figured out in the sense that she's definitely an art major, definitely a lesbian, and definitely kind of hates everybody else. And then we later meet a few other characters, the main one being London, who kind of sort of becomes Smith's girlfriend, but they are definitely poly or ethically non-monogamous, as the kids say these days. And then there's a bunch of other colorful characters as well. And so I will say right off the bat, I am unusually forgiving of this movie's faults because of the setting. Because to me, this movie captures the sloppiness and the just go with it feel of a liberal arts college so well. And this whole movie is just such a vibe. And it's just like it evokes those memories of staying up late, talking about stuff that you think is really important and it's not, over coffee, big ideas, small ideas, just like, like class isn't even like a real thought. Like, it's just like, who are you hooking up with? Whose party are you going to? Where are you eating next? Like, and
who are you fucking next?
yeah, and I just like yeah, there's a lot of flaws in this movie, and it feels like there were a lot of days where they're like, well, we can't shoot that scene, so we're shooting this instead. But it works for me because that was my college experience. Like, I was just like, well, I thought I was going to rugby practice, but it turns out I got to go to a cappella practice. Like, it just like things just changed on the dime, and you just went with it. And so I love the movie for that.
That's interesting because I was going to ask you why you chose this film, because it doesn't. I don't know what you think, Ken. It doesn't scream Deado to me, in terms of that. So I guess that's your answer. I just kind of remind you of your time as in the liberal arts college.
Yeah, it's funny. I wasn't sure either, and then you said that when we were watching it, and I was like, oh, okay, that really clicked.
Yeah, I mean, I am also a sucker for, let's call it, a magical surrealism, although I think we're not supposed to use that term that broadly anymore, but like the hint of weirdness. Like, yeah, in this case, the movie gets a little batty towards the end. But like, I love that, like, everything is relatively normal, but then there's like, wait a second, there are men in animal masks walking around. Oh, wait, maybe they're not real. Oh, wait, no, I think they're real. Oh, there is some danger. Like, again, it evokes that. Like, I mean, I remember one of my first college memories was like just walking around campus at 3 a.m, just shocked that was okay. Right? Like, just like I was all of 19, and I was just like, I get it that we're like allowed to do this, but like no one's mad that we're here. Like, like that's cool. That's freedom, and that, like, so yeah, that's why I like this movie. I typically would not. But I really like Gregg Araki's style. It's so glossy. I think he has a fantastic eye for casting, both aesthetically, but also most of his actors are pretty good, even when they're playing absolute cornballs.
Yeah.
Like the Chris is Zilka, the
Yeah.
one who plays Thor.
Yeah.
Like that could have been such a failed role, and he nails it. Like
Yeah.
he completely gets who that character is, and it's so good. So yeah, I just think like Araki is very much an inconsistent filmmaker, but the
Yeah,
stuff that
definitely.
he gets right overcomes the stuff that he gets wrong.
Yeah. I
Uh
think you're so right about casting, because many of these actors went on to, have real careers after this. So I mean, all the leads went on and did multiple and are still working now.
Yeah,
Uh,
and his British girlfriend, the second she opens her mouth, I'm like, "Whoa, was that Juno Temple?" And sure
yeah, I
enough, it's
know.
Juno Temple in an early
Yeah.
role.
Yeah.
So, which I
Uh,
think she's probably the best one in the movie too, the best performance in
she's
the movie, I
great.
think.
Yeah.
yeah.
Chris Zilka was in The Leftovers,
Oh, okay.
after
Yeah,
this, and Haley Bennett, who plays Stella,
she's
she's
been in a
been in a
bunch of
bunch of
stuff.
stuff.
Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
yeah.
She's been all over.
And he even discovered the popularity of the girl with giant eyes, or is it Anna Taylor Joy? What's her name?
Oh, Anya Taylor-Joy. Yeah.
Yeah. I honestly I was like, wait, that's not her, is it?
Yeah.
But it's not. It's Nicole La Liberté, which is probably a stage name. But yeah, I mean, I was like, her eyes just keep getting bigger.
Is she the red? She's the redhead.
She's a redhead.
She's the
Yeah.
Yeah,
redhead.
she's like super striking.
Yeah. Yeah, so I guess we should continue to explain the movie a little better. So
Mm.
while our boy Smith is gallivanting around and stumbling into various sexual shenanigans, and that is a big part of this movie. There's a lot
Yeah.
of there's a lot of
It's a
sex,
Gregg Araki film. Sexual shenanigans go
Yeah,
without saying.
but the real the arguably the A plot is that he's been having this dream about these mystery women and some other things, and he's trying to figure that out, and he's getting these weird clues that there's something really weird going on, and stuff starts to get a little ominous and a little dark, and then eventually the third act is very rushed, which is unfortunate, but eventually you find out how it all comes together, and it does actually make sense, unlike a lot of these movies. But to me, like, also, like, this movie is basically a more fun version of Under the Silver Lake. It's still a noir to me, but it's like a neon college noir instead of just a modern LA noir. And like it's just so much more fun. It's just like so much
Kind
more.
of a noir with bisexual lighting, kind of. Right?
Yeah, I guess. Is that bisexual? I guess. Yeah.
Oh, you don't know what that about bisexual lighting? That's like a thing.
Oh, is that a thing? All right.
Yeah, it's an actual term about
Oh.
bisexual. That color palette and that style of lighting is often referred to as bisexual lighting.
Okay. I thought it was. Is that where Netflix gets all their posters? Because I feel like the lighting is like such a Netflix poster. All right, so yeah, I think I've talked too much. Ken, tell us if you like this movie, tell us what you liked about this movie.
I did. I liked it a lot. As a matter of fact, one thing. So what I like, so it was interesting that it's sort of like has two plot lines, like you were saying. It's the college shenanigans, sort of coming of age story, and then the cult plot line. I liked both, but I definitely preferred the college coming of age plot line, and I do wish in some ways that the movie could have been just about that, and it would have been really good. Although I do think there was something nice about this kind of sinister things going on, around the plot. And maybe if that was better developed, it might have made it work better, which doesn't make it less entertaining. It's just that I feel like that was maybe the one weakness, is that the cult plot line feels a little underbaked. But I thought the characters are really interesting. I thought it felt like it could only be a Gregg Araki movie. Like it doesn't feel like anything else. I love the way it was shot. The look of it is so great. I know when we were watching it, I was making fun of the dinner, like the dining hall scenes that were, in this like dark,
The Black Void.
yeah, the black void, but like it was great. Like I loved it, like it was really memorable. And the kind of candy colored lighting, is that the bisexual lighting?
Yeah.
Um, uh, yeah, and you could tell that it wasn't a huge budget, but that they were doing a lot. He was doing a lot with the budget he had and the locations and the sets that he was using. Um, so yeah, so I think that's overall where I landed. I love the look of it. I thought the characters were really interesting. Um, occasionally it went into, there's the scene where London is hooking up with the one of the meathead guys, and she's like giving him some sexual instruction. I was like, all right, this seems a little like if it was a show or if it was like a coming of age, if the movie was just this, then it would kind of fit. But in the middle of this, noir plot line, it felt a little out of place.
Yeah, to
But
me
you
that
kind of
was
forgive it. You kind of forgive it though.
yeah, that was to me that was one of those scenes where I was like, oh, whoever they were supposed to film today canceled, and they
I
decided
got to write something.
They
Yeah.
Some more
decided
gratuitous than a movie.
they're like we
Yeah.
can get these actors, and yeah, I totally agree with you. I would love to see the cult stuff furthered a little farther. But I will say that like to me, the cult stuff is what makes it fun. I think personally, I think I would find these characters insufferable if it was just about them trying
Yeah.
to figure out where they want to stick it.
Yeah.
Right? Like,
Right.
like because it was just like they're a little vapid, like, but it's like when you add in that extra stuff that's outside of them that has much bigger life or death consequences,
Yeah.
then it's just like it's a good balance of spice that like just
Which I think is a really good point. I hadn't really thought of it that way until you brought it up at the beginning, but it does add something. It adds some weight to the story that you wouldn't have otherwise.
yeah, exactly. Professor, what about you? What did you like about this movie?
Yeah, I'm pretty much with you guys exactly, which is like the cult thing could work, but it is abrupt, I think is the word you used, Edo, which is kind of a bit of a problem, and that everything's kind of resolved kind of quickly. And um, I do like that he kind of tells a like relatively large scale idea with very little resources, which I kind of liked. I liked it. I didn't like it as much as you guys did. It's not one of my more favorite Iraqi films. Like I said, I think Ken, you hit on too. Like it feels a little half baked in terms of the integration of the two plots isn't as elegant as it could be, and I think that's in seeing a number of his films, like that's a failing he sometimes has, is that um, I don't want to use the like crude is not the word because that seems pejorative, but I'd say blunt. Like he's a very blunt filmmaker in a lot of ways, like in terms of and in good ways, in terms of like really being clear about his point of view and being clear about what he's after, and the dialogue is maybe a little inelegant sometimes. But the downside of that is that it just feels like it feels inelegant, I guess is the word I would use. Like it feels like it needs another draft, sort of like some of the lines are a little too on the nosy or a little awkward. The transitions between scenes are a little jagged and not quite integrated as well. And A and B plots aren't quite integrated as well as they could be. And I find that in some of his films that way. Like I think maybe perhaps his best film is probably Mysterious Skin, and I think it's telling and he has adapted novels before, but that's based on a pretty good novel that kind of is elegant in its construction. And I think if he has a narrative that's in place, he's he can embroider around it, like the stuff that you liked about Dedo and Ken. I think what he's really good at is kind of putting in those little details in there, those little lines or those little moments, especially when it comes to the sexual lives of his characters. But on a narrative scale, sometimes he loses his way a little bit, I think, and doesn't quite keep his eye on the ball as much as I would like. So I liked it. Again, not as much as you guys, although there are some plenty of details that I liked. Also, what did you guys think about the voiceover? Like the voiceover, I felt was kind of intrusive. Every time it came in, I was like, oh, I was kind of into it, and now I'm like, there's not really telling me much that I can't really see from the scenes and from the behavior. So I don't know what you guys thought about that part of it. I will say, there is one line in voiceover that hit hard, which is when Smith says he's majoring in film studies, and he says, even though there's real doubt if films will even exist in a few years. And coming in 2010, how prophetic is that statement? I think. Talk about nihilism.
We'll
Yeah.
talk about that. But yeah, and much like I think we are 4 for 4 with a writer, producer, director, editor
Oh, he edited this one too.
Yeah, he did.
Okay, I didn't notice that.
And I did find an interview where he said that was largely due to budget, but I do wonder if maybe the movie would have benefited a little bit from a fresh set of eyes.
Yeah, I think you're right, Ditto. I think whether that's at the screenplay stage or the editing stage.
Yeah, but on the other hand, maybe the movie would only been 60 minutes long then.
Right.
Like, I mean, there are plenty of scenes that you can just completely cut.
Yeah.
But I think it's fair to be a little more critical about this movie because Gregg is a much more established filmmaker. He's playing at near Hollywood levels. His
reputation is secure.
Yeah, he's got a movie in pre-production, coming out with some legit celebrities. So but this is a movie that I think deserves some recognition. So hence we're adding it to the queue here.
And adding a little spice to the no really trust us filmography here.
Also, this is like the last one I have that's not a horror movie, so I keep
but
it
does have its quota of boobs, Ditto, which is paramount.
It does have boobage.
I have two things to. One is just a comment, but I love the opening dream sequence, and I think I just generally have a fascination with how movies portray dreams. And I think it's really well done. And I think the setup, it's a really good setup for the film because, introducing the idea that he's seeing these people in his dreams who he hasn't met. And then as he meets them in the film, who are they? How does he know them? I don't think the movie really has a good answer for why. Yeah. But I think that's a really interesting setup.
I totally agree, and I also like from a production point of view, he clearly was like, "Oh, we can shoot this in the basement of this dorm, this facility."
Yeah,
and in general, I like his style of cranking up the exposure.
Yeah,
he clearly was playing around with what Final Cut can do, and a lot of times it really worked. A couple times it didn't. But I will say I have one gripe with the opening is that he's like, I see the most striking woman I've ever seen in my life. And we see Lorelai, played by Roxanne Mesquita, and she's a beautiful woman, don't get me wrong. But then they're like, and next to her, this other girl, and it's Nicole LaLiberty, who's got the giant eye.
Right.
Who looks like Anna Taylor-Joy. And you're like, wait. That's the striking woman.
Yeah, if you're gonna use, it's got nothing to do with beauty. It's if you're using the term striking, as in that's an interesting look. You would probably do it for her.
Yeah, and narratively, she ends up being more she should be the strike. She should be the woman he's struck with because he runs. That's the one. That's the mystery woman in the movie.
Right. Maybe that was supposed to be an example of his confused bisexuality. I don't.
Right. So the other thing I wanted to bring up was, and I think we can talk about it without giving it away, but the ending. So I feel like we're talking about his nihilism, Gregg Araki's, for a movie that feels not super nihilistic generally. It sort of has a positive vibe. I don't know what I think about the end. I don't know that I feel like it works necessarily.
I would agree with that. I think it definitely has third act problems, not just from a narrative, just like a basic kind of A to B to C narrative thing, but also thematically. I would absolutely agree that like to use like the Doctor Strangelove ending in the middle of this coming of age, that it just doesn't quite. I'm not even sure like what the point was necessarily in terms of like it just. I completely agree, Ken.
Yeah.
It feels a little out of character. Not out of character for his filmography,
Yeah.
but out of character for this particular film, and what he was going after. It seems.
Well,
Yeah.
I don't want to tell you guys you're wrong, but
No,
Tell us we're wrong,
us.
Detto.
Tell us we're wrong.
but John Waters said that was his favorite ending.
Oh.
I will
Okay.
say, like, I admit I am completely giving this movie way too much slack, right?
It's unusual for you, Detto. To do
I know
that.
it's very unusual for me. It clicks. So I will say, like, one of the reasons why I didn't like using the term nihilism is that, you know, nihilism usually has a pessimistic angle, you know, and in this case, it's like their ennui, their lack of purpose, their aimlessness is actually seems to be a function of a society that has succeeded. Like, you know, Smith in particular, he comes from wealth. None of these characters are worried about money. Like, you know, they're living in this like kind of college utopia, and because of that, they don't have to worry about this stuff, and they can do things like, let's go see if we can find this missing dead girl. And that's interesting because it's like that's a theme in a lot of his stuff, but it's like it's not necessarily a criticism. And then you have the whole Smith's whole purpose as far as the cult is concerned is to be the chosen child. And he basically, well, he was supposed to become that. They clearly overshot, but like it was like he continues to not do anything. Like he continues to be pretty passive. So in that sense, thematically, it works, right? But like, yeah, don't get me wrong. Like, there's a part of me I'm like, well, now I'm sad because all these beautiful people are dead. But at the same time,
Well,
like,
and potentially the whole world.
yeah, I mean, yeah, if assuming that cheesy graphic is to be believed.
Right.
But even that's like kind of funny, right? The cult had this elaborate plan. It ended up just killing literally everything.
Yeah. I mean, I do like that it gets like kind of progressively goofier. Like it becomes like Keystone Cops kind of at the end, where they're chasing each other.
Right.
And all that is funny. I mean, I just don't know. I don't know what to make of the final kaboom, so to speak. I'm not sure what he's trying to say, really.
What it reminds me of is, do you guys remember the show Sledgehammer?
Yes.
The Dirty Harry parody with, and like, yeah, so the show was supposed to end, and so they do a final scene where Sledgehammer has to defuse a nuclear bomb, and he blows up the city. And that's how the series ends. And young Detto at 12 years old could not handle that. I was very upset about that.
Yeah.
And then they announced the show was coming back, and I was like, thank God they're going to resolve this. And then the very first episode of the final season, even at 12 years old, I was like, wow, this really fell off. They're like, in the last episode, Sledge detonated a nuclear bomb and destroyed the city. This season takes place a year before that happened. And I was like, you bastards. But now as an adult, I can appreciate that, you know? I can appreciate
At least they
like
kept
cheating.
the explosion canon. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, right?
Yeah. But you'd still feel cheated, right? Like you're not resolving anything.
Right. Which is definitely what happened here. Like they clearly were just like, what's the bank account say? $5.
Right.
Boom.
Do you know how to end this? I don't know how to end this. All right, kaboom.
Kaboom. I
Yeah,
wonder
and
if
also
that was,
yeah.
I wonder if that was always the title, or if that was a title that they added on.
Probably. It seems like it.
Yeah.
Like that was kind of built around that.
Well, I was going to ask specifically, Professor, because I know you feel strongly about this. How did you feel about the occasional dissolves and wipes?
Funny you mentioned that. I was mostly okay with it. There's one wipe in particular that bothered me, it was like a cheesy wipe to an exterior of an apartment building, the apartment building that Stella lives in, or the dorm, whatever she lives in, and it looked lame and out of place, and I'm like, that looks like drunk soul baths or something. Like I see what he's trying to do because the exterior, it's a night exterior of the dorm or whatever, and it looks kind of like a grid, and so we did kind of like a grid wipe sort of, but it looks lame, like it just cheesy, and it's also like apart from the style of the rest of the film, and I didn't really care for that.
Well, I will say though, there
Most of
was
the rest
another
are
one.
okay. Go ahead.
Sorry, so I was going to say there was another one though that I think worked really well, and it was a checkerboard, and it was what it took you into the club towards the beginning when you first meet Lorelai, and it's a checkerboard dissolve, and that same checkerboard pattern is on the back wall.
Yes,
That was pretty cool. That
I
really,
did like that one.
So it was
And
like,
because it's going into a club environment, I think it works a little better.
Yeah.
And kind of sets the tone for that. So it didn't bother me as much as you thought it would.
I
But
wasn't sure.
just that one shot, that one transition did
Yeah.
bother me. But most of the rest I thought were okay.
I mean, it's a perfect example of Araki's style. Like he's not
Yeah.
not afraid to go for it. Even if he decides it didn't get there, he's like, "Fuck it, I'm keeping it in."
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
And not afraid of a little tonal inconsistency from here and there. And so speaking of tone stuff, it was sometimes because it's described as like a half a dozen different genres on IMDb, and I think sometimes that's to its benefit, and sometimes it's to its what is what. Because like the humor was sometimes a little hard to place. Like they would be taking it like looking for the redheaded woman. She's missing and may have been killed. I'm not sure. And it's a serious scene where they're trying to figure out, where she is and everything. But then Juno Temple, her character's in London, shows up and says, "Oh, I think I may know where she is." And she holds up a newspaper, like a student newspaper or whatever, and it has the headline. And I wrote the headline down because I can't tell if this is supposed to be a joke or this is an overly clear bit of exposition. The headline reads, "Unidentified headless female torso found in oceanography department dumpster." That's what it's. And I just kind of laughed, but I'm like, was I supposed to laugh at that? Because it's kind of ridiculous, but at the same time, it's kind of played relatively seriously, so I'm not quite sure what the tone was for that particular part. And then also below it and to the right, there's another article that says "Surviving Freshman Year with Dignity."
Well, and like that's like, yeah, to me, like again, like that's college. Like you're confronted with this like serious shit on one hand, and then like the next thing you know, your stoner roommate falls off his bunk bed, and like like because like when they go and they accidentally stumble onto the dead girl who may or may not be dead, and it's like it's kind of a like it's tonally very different. She's all like grunged up. She looks. She's in super rough shape. It's like a dark, dingy. It's complete opposite and of like the rest of the movie. There's no bisexual lighting, and it's like, yeah, but that's like they're off the campus. They've ventured into the real world for a second, and like, and that again, that was college. Like you're like having a party, and then you're like, oh fuck, Stella just had to go to the emergency room for her appendix, and like or whatever, like
Yeah.
So yeah, I don't know. Like I said, I've just for some reason this movie gets a pass for me. It's like it's so clunky and slapdash, but I guess it just reminds me of the one I went to school with.
Slapdash is another way to think about it, like to articulate it. Yeah, I think that's again getting back to the idea of like the pieces not necessarily fitting together as elegantly as they should.
Yeah, but it just like it helps too. It moves. It doesn't drag.
It does move. I'd say it's his most, in terms of all of his films, I'd say this is probably the easy, of the ones I've seen, this is probably the easiest watch in terms of, pacing and entertainment value, I think.
Yeah. I think there's some charm, too, to the rough edges, I think.
Yeah, I would agree. I think that's always been an appeal of his style to me, going back to the early 90s, like his first three films definitely have a raw edge to them that I think adds to And part of it was just budget, and part of it was just harder to make films then because you're doing it on film, or you're either doing it on 16 millimeter or short ends of 35 millimeter or something.
Yeah.
So it was a lot harder, and it was going to look more crude maybe and raw. But I thought always added to his aesthetic and to his point in a lot of ways to those films. I think they have a kind of energy to them that I think his later films don't.
It's almost that mumblecore energy without the mumblecore aesthetic.
Without the annoyance of mumblecore.
Also that.
Well, I mean, that brings us to one thing I did want to mention, which is like going back to the early 90s of Araki being part of that kind of new queer cinema movement in independent film. Because it sort of means a lot to me because that era of film is really what got me excited about pursuing it and actually doing it. Yeah, I'm a huge Star Wars nerd, so yeah, it'd be cool to make Star Wars. But like, what really got me to think, oh, hey, I could maybe do that, was that whole indie movement in the early '90s, from like Kevin Smith and Tarantino and Robert Rodriguez and Steven Soderbergh and Richard Linklater and that whole kind of class of filmmakers. Like if the '70s were the golden era of American studio filmmaking, the 90s was certainly probably the golden era of American indie filmmaking, I think. Just kind of one classic after another and one great filmmaker emerging after another. And kind of in concert with that, concurrent to that, in a sense, was this new queer cinema movement, which we're still getting. It started the careers of filmmakers like, Todd Haynes came out of that, who is probably one of America's best filmmakers today, and he's still making films. But it was like, it was Todd Haynes, it was Guinevere Turner and Mary Herron and Cheryl Dunye and Gregg Araki, and all of them kind of together in this real kind of movement. It was a really exciting time for queer cinema, and I'm kind of amused today when we're talking about inclusiveness, and we need more voices, and it's like we need more queer cinema. It's like, guys, this happened 30 years ago. It's like, just because it was before Twitter, it still counts, So let's give some credit and some laurels to them for kind of pushing that movement forward.
But it's interesting too to me because he made, about 9 years later, he made a show called Now Apocalypse for Stars, and it had Soderbergh as a co-executive producer, and Gregory Jacobs was the other one. And that is basically a redo of this movie. So it's done as a TV show, and it actually does star Roxanne Mesquita is in it, playing a completely different role. But same themes of like people who don't know what they're doing in their life. In this case, it's just young adults in LA who are all trying to figure out how they're going to make money, and how I think a few of them want to be actors, and it's a lot more LA focused. And I think that was probably why it failed.
A little too insular.
And just because people weren't, like I said, it's kind of like I said, if without the cult thing in Kaboom, it's just beautiful people whining.
Right.
And in this case, it's not a cult, it's a alien invasion, but it's the same thing where it's like, is it real? Yeah, pretty sure it's real, but no one's believing him. That one actually has a better vehicle because like he's a complete stoner. So every time he's like, no, I saw the lizard men, they're like,
sure.
Smoking pot. That's pretty good because like that's believable. But it's like he's trying to say something and rehash these ideas. And I wonder if he will get there. It's going to have this one that's like definitive, or if he's just like he's playing in the sandbox.
Yeah, I mean, I think that, it's definitely variations on a theme, and it's like, a lot of filmmakers. Scorsese does that. He keeps coming back to the same themes over and over again, and as long as they're interesting and entertaining, why not?
Yeah.
Come back.
For sure.
Same with Tarantino. He's like, what if people said the N-word in German? Like, exploring those themes.
Right.
Yeah. What accent does it sound best in?
Right.
What do German feet look like versus American feet?
You beat me to it. I was saying, how many different feet can we show?
That's right.
Oh man. Well, that'll get us some publicity. Cool. All right. Well, I know we don't have a definitive answer, but do you guys want to play Guess the Budget?
How are we gonna? If we don't have a definitive answer, how can we play, Ditto?
I mean, we can just guess the budget.
Oh, just guess the budget. No. Well, we can all kind of work this out together, because if we don't have a definitive number, because it is shot on the Red camera, right? And this is his first film doing that, and this is kind of at the dawn of the Red camera era. So it was still relatively expensive. I mean, it is an expensive camera anyway, but so
But back
there's
then,
that.
that was decent money because like
Yeah,
you had to invest in the whole infrastructure. And in one of his interviews, he said he cut it on Final Cut, which like that also he had a serious edit system or he was renting space or
right.
something. So like yeah,
Right.
this is definitely a movie that was made more than probably any of the other movies we watched. But you know, I still imagine it's probably I wouldn't be surprised if it cleared a mil for a budget. I would guess 750.
That high.
Yeah, just because he is shooting in LA. It's
Yeah, that's true. Isn't it?
pretty hard to cut
Yeah.
corners over there.
Yeah.
You
And
can
these
see-
are, I mean, these are not big actors, but some of them are, had done things already.
Yeah,
So it's not
right.
like they're working for scale necessarily.
Most of them were clearly professionals.
Yeah.
A few of them might have been porn stars, but you know, yeah. So I guess I'll round down. I'll say 700.
Go under $1 million probably. But yeah, I'd say half a mil to 750 maybe probably is a pretty good guess in terms of that.
That's fine. I was going to say, I feel like it might be a little more than that, like 1.5 maybe.
Okay.
Just because of who he was, relatively well-known filmmaker within the industry at that point. So
the budget was $100,000, but his fee was $500,000. Is that what?
right.
I'm Gregg Araki, damn it.
Right. He took it to the bank.
Yeah, I mean, like if we're remotely accurate with these estimates, the movie definitely did not make money based on what we've seen from box office. But
yeah, it made about 635,000 worldwide is what it made in the box office.
Yeah,
but it didn't get much of a release, so that's not
right
too fair in terms of like.
And it was co-produced by a French company, which means possibly they had some French money that didn't need to get paid back. So
right, like grants or something like that.
Yeah, it is possible that maybe the actual ROI was better.
Yeah, only 2 production company logos too, which you don't see much anymore.
Yeah,
the minimum now is like 8. So
right.
when it comes to indie cinema. While we're on the subject of technical stuff, one question I thought for you guys, and I don't know if this was intentional. I don't think it was because he isn't necessarily known for this, but the sound design of it was a little too sparse for me. It was pretty much just and the dialogue was well edited and very clean and easy to understand and well done, well recorded, but it was pretty much just dialogue and music, and that's it. There's really no. And it seems like, especially when you're trying to create tension, especially towards the end, it seems like that's a real kind of tool that wasn't really used very much. And I maybe it's because I've been working in sound lately, and doing theater and stuff like sound effects for theater, but it struck me. It struck me maybe halfway through. I'm like, it just struck me as like it sounds too spare to me. I don't know if you guys noticed that or what you guys, now that I pointed out, if you guys think about it at all.
Yeah, I will say I did not notice it, but I think again, it's such an egocentric film that I probably didn't notice it for that reason. Like these people are so self-absorbed, they're not gonna notice the crickets outside.
Right.
Like, I mean, they're probably, I mean, chances are good he also did the sound design at Final Cut, so like
right
like it probably could benefit for some more atmosphere.
I think there are credited sound people on there in the closing credits, so.
But I find it interesting too that like I've never seen a movie name drop a band so hard. And
what band could you be referring to?
Why Explosions in the Sky? And I wonder if I would just love to know, does he know them? Because like, I mean, honestly, that's like, I would love to be able to like hook my friends up and be like, drop their stuff in the film and get it noticed. So like, it's not a criticism, but when you do it twice and you only do it for one band, it's kind of obvious.
Yeah, and Helen Stellar too, which they dropped that name a couple times, and they get a whole performance. They get like a minute or so of their performance at one point.
Yeah.
So there's definitely a lot of interesting song choices in there. I also wanted to bring up, and maybe Ken, you know more about this than maybe Dead. I don't know, but like Gregg Araki versus David Dakota. I'm like asking the question, what is the difference between a Gregg Araki film and a David Dakota film? And I think it's just budget and production value. Maybe they have different types because Gregg Araki's types in terms of gay men seems to be more twinky than Dakota, who tends a more muscular kind of thing. But I'm wondering what your thoughts are on Dakota, Ken, or if you've come across his stuff at all.
So I'm familiar with him, but I actually haven't seen any of his films.
You're not missing a whole lot.
Right. It seems like he's more of in the like billowing curtains
Right.
filmmaking style.
Yeah. At least Araki kind of has a pretense of narrative that he's at, and he just kind of, puts in what he's interested in from a sexual standpoint. Dakota just doesn't give a shit. He's just like, I'm totally all about dudes taking their shirts off.
Right.
And whatever narrative.
My sense is more like softcore. Maybe slightly elevated softcore.
Basically, not even elevated. Just straight, just nothing elevated about him.
Right.
Except maybe parts of his body that are elevated. But aside from that, just not much going on.
Two things to interject there. One, I'm not familiar with the work of David Dakota, but I would argue that Gregg Araki sees himself as the twink, and his type is definitely otters. Like every dude that our dude hooks up with are beefy, jacked dudes. They're not.
That's true.
They're not.
That's true.
Even the mom gets a beefy, jacked dude.
Yeah, and Araki himself is bisexual. So like it tracks that he's actually putting himself in the main.
Yeah, that's true. The Smith kind of character, who we assume is kind of the stand-in for Araki, definitely has that kind of thing, like Twinkie kind of look. But yeah, what he's interested in is definitely what you're talking about. Also,
You're a beefcake.
Smith, the actor who plays Smith, with Thomas Dekker, I think is his name. Is that it? Yeah.
Yeah.
I wrote down that he reminded me of either bored Adam Scott or regular Jared Leto. That's what
Oh wow!
reminded me of.
He definitely had Adam Scott hair.
Yes.
Also, I just wanted to give a shout out. If we're talking about applying the male gaze to men, people should see the Slumber Party Massacre remake that sci-fi did, because they completely flipped the script and
Interesting.
Totally, I don't even know about this.
I thought you watched it with us. No,
no, the remake. No.
Yeah.
No.
So they completely flipped the script, and it's like the dudes are all like, there's literally two different dudes named Guy. Like they're all generic. And then it's like there is a prolonged shower scene of one of the dudes, and it's completely gratuitous and it's completely unnecessary, and you're like, okay, I see what you're doing here. Like,
I haven't seen it, but I do remember you telling me about it.
Yeah,
okay.
So I recommend. It's a pretty fun movie, and it actually does have a decent twist.
It's pretty clever, actually.
Even though it's actually a little unfair to target Slumber Party Massacre, because the original was actually directed and written by women, so it's not as much of a gratuitous nudity movie as people remember it for. But that's neither here nor there. So, shall we get into line readings?
Yes, the Walken Awards.
The Walken Awards.
Yes, Ken, you want to go first? Do you have any Walken Award nominees?
Oh no, I'm going to leave it to you, Professor.
Oh, it's all to me. And Dedo, do you have any at all or no?
I have one.
Okay.
One. So, and I'm probably not going to remember it correctly, but I do think anything Thor said would have been great as Mr. Walken, particularly. I heard if you do this for 3 months, you can suck your own dick. So that gets my vote.
That's pretty good. So I have two categories of lines, Walken lines. One is lines that are well written, like clever written lines. So no matter who the actor is, it's going to be interesting and good. And one, the true kind of spirit of the Walken Award, I think, is an ordinary line on the page, but the actor puts like a real spin on it, right? Like really sells it, or really puts an interesting.
All over it.
That's right, exactly, an accent on it. So in terms of the written ones, maybe one of my favorites is "Dreams are just your brain taking a dump at the end of the day,"
That is a good one.
which I like. And at one point, Stella and Smith are walking, and Smith says, "Do you have anything better to do?" And she says, "What am I going to do? Suck a fart out of a dead seagull's ass?" Like that was pretty good. I like that one.
That was a little Heathers for me. That was
Yeah.
that
A
was
little Heathersy.
little too edgy. Like people stopped saying that in 1989. Like that kind of thing, right?
Was that a thing people said? I don't know.
I
I
mean,
never
stuff like that was thing.
stuff like that.
You had a litany of comebacks, and like you just
Right.
dusted them off, right? Like
Right. But in terms of like ordinary lines that the actor really owned, one is from Juno Temple, where when she meets Thor, and she's walking out of the room, and in his best like vacant surfer dude way, he goes, "I'm Thor," and she goes, "Yes, I'm sure you are." Just the way she said that, it's just like obviously your name is Thor because you're a dumbass surfer guy. And Stella had one when she's giving Smith a birthday present, and she says, "Happy birthday, monkey spanker," which is not only on the page pretty good, but the way she delivers it is she gets just the right amount of sauce on it, I think. And one, to go back to the scene that you guys were talking about before, the oral sex scene where London is coaching Rex is his name through it. And to stop him initially from what he's doing down there, she says, "It's a vagina, not a bowl of spaghetti." It just made me wonder, what exactly is he doing down there? Prompted that line. I'm not sure what, but
should
that
watch
I thought was
Lady
amusing.
and the Tramp.
Yeah, and also one not a spoken line, but a line written down in the background of the little cafe that they frequently, the Black Void Cafe, which I guess what we can call it, just the Black Void Cafe. Prominently in the background, it says, "Today's special, tuna melt with waffle fries," and that just made me want a tuna melt with waffle fries. So that's
Yeah, like I mean, like just to beat a dead horse here, but like yeah, like just that feeling of like, staying up late was exciting, right? Like getting waffle fries at 3 a.m. was fun and cool, and like now you're just like, fuck, I'm gonna have some heartburn. Like, like, and it's just like that's what I love about this movie. That's what it evokes for me. It's like just remembering what it was like to have freedom and not know what the fuck to do with it. So you're like, well, I guess maybe we'll solve a murder. Like,
right.
Yeah, we'll investigate a cult.
Yeah. Study.
I do like we never see any classes. That's great.
Yes.
I think there's like a flashback to a class, but I think that might be
Madeline, the red-haired woman. Yeah,
right.
she's shown in class passing out.
That's right.
Yeah, that's the only shot really of it.
Yeah.
But honestly, I mean, that, again, great production value. Like, filling a classroom with students would be expensive.
Yeah.
So, you do it.
And you don't miss it.
No, you don't miss it because it's like it's not about class.
Yeah.
So
it's definitely a vibes movie for most. I think when it's working at its best, it is that kind of vibe that you're talking about. And when it's at its worst, it's servicing the rushed kind of half-assed cult plot.
I mean, like basically, like at its best, you're floating in this rainbow bubble, and you're just like, I'm going along for the ride. And then every once in a while, you hit a bump, and the bubble pops, and you're like, wait. What is going on? Where are we? The bubble forms, and you're like, oh, look at these beautiful people. I'm cool with it. We're floating around again, and then it pops again, But like I said, to me, that like actually, intentionally or not, evokes what college life was like. So I'm cool with it. I'm very forgiving of this. So yeah. Final word, Ken. Would you recommend Kaboom by Gregg Araki?
Yes, I would absolutely recommend Kaboom. Kaboom.
Right. Kaboom. Professor, would you recommend Kaboom by Gregg Araki?
Yeah, I would. If you're looking to go into the cinema of Gregg Araki, it's not the first one I would recommend. I think Mysterious Skin is probably his best film as a film overall, even though it deals with some rough subject matter, like child abuse. And his early 90s stuff, I think, is representative of him, even though they may be a little more crude. I think Mysterious Skin and this one are his most polished movies, I'd say, as cinema. And those other ones are a little more raw. But so I would kind of rank it, mid to the bottom half of his filmography. He hasn't made a whole lot of films, so I'd recommend it. But as an introduction to Araki, I think there's better films to do for that, I think.
Fair enough. One last thought that I should have mentioned earlier, but it only came to me now. So since you're speaking of early 2000 cinema, back in the day, me and my roommate used to get a hell of a kick of showing people Wet Hot American Summer. A, because it was a very funny movie, but B, because it has one of the rawest gay sex scenes that you've ever seen in a otherwise not gay movie. And we would very much enjoy showing it to our male friends and watching their reaction. And I feel like this movie would also do that well. It's a little bit of a flip. It comes at you much sooner, but like it comes at you hard and you're not expecting it. And then all of a sudden it pops and then there's a naked girl and you're like, wait. And I don't know if people like nowadays still have those friends that are gonna be weirded out by that sort of thing. But if you do, this would be a fun one to show them. So,
For all your bros, just get your bros together and
if you want to play Who's the Homophobe, this is the good one. You'd be like, dude, the girl from Ted Lasso, you get to see her boobs, and they'll be like, eh.
oh right,
You just don't tell them what else they have to see.
right.
Cool. Well, that I think probably concludes, probably a little too late, our episode of Kaboom. Tune in next week or whenever. When I believe it's Professor's turn to recommend a movie. So
It is.
That's assuming we release these in order, which we probably won't.
Probably won't. So
who knows what you get next?
yeah.
But it'll be good because no, really, trust us.
Thanks for listening. If you've got a movie that you love and you think more people should know about, drop us a line at noreallytrustus@gmail.com or on Instagram @noreallytrustus. Don't forget to rate and subscribe, and we'll see you next time.